Sculptor Mark Anthony Pelosi is on the couch with Gavin and Chris. He's here to talk about his sculptures and a new book called Art Oneida, documenting art sculptures all around central New York. This episode is sponsored by Mohawk Valley Living TV show and magazine. To find out how you could be a sponsor, message us on Facebook. Like our Facebook page and stay up to date with a new video every Tuesday. To watch the full interview, subscribe to our YouTube page, www.youtube.com/onthecouchwgc. Welcome to this episode of On the Couch with Gavin and Chris.
Hi everybody. Today we have a good friend of mine, Mark Anthony Pelosi, that I went to high school with, back in the Notre Dame days. Mark is a fantastic sculpture artist, and why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing these days?
So besides the sculpture or with the sculpture?
Yeah, with the sculpture.
With the sculpture. So I do large-scale contemporary installation work. So the best way to describe that is if you took everything in your house, paint it pink, and glued it to your ceiling. And that is surprisingly accurate, so I'll send you pictures later so you can be like, look, the
Sounds
pink
good.
thing.
Yeah, we'll put those up so everyone can see.
So that's like one of the main things I do. I also do sort of functional craft work. So the trash cans on Varick Street that are going up in a couple of bars.
The washers?
Yeah, the little welded washer things.
Yeah,
and then some of the like reclaimed wood tables inside, like the stife and
Very cool.
furniture or really anything.
You did the tables and the stuff?
Yeah.
So you made the garbage can like enclosure thing, right?
Right, yeah.
Right, okay, cool. To make those look nice.
Yeah, and an attempt to like clean up what's pretty much just like tumbleweeds of trash rolling down Varick Street and through that neighborhood.
I really like those because they have that cool industrial look to them. They fit really well down there, I think.
Yeah, and it's art.
And it's art.
And it's
looks
art,
cool.
right? Yeah, and you're doing art, so.
Yeah.
So how did you get into doing this in the beginning?
So with the trash can type thing?
No,
or
like
just
sculpture in general, yeah.
That's a really good question. So in high school you have to figure out what you want to do with your life.
Yeah.
And so it was either like the JROTC thing, so I was like, I can enlist, but I'm terrible at both taking and giving orders, so that was clearly not going to happen. It was either that or go into like computers, so I really like doing like web design and coding and things, but that seems tedious, and at the time I was terrible at math. So I took a shot at Munson, which was just like the local 2-year art school. It was the first year that they had connected with Pratt, and I was like, well, 2 years, I'll try art out. If it's good, then like, yay. If it's not, then I'll just like switch out, go to MVCC, and do something else with my life. And it turns out that even though I wanted to pretty much like draw comic books, and I ended up in a fine art school, I had a really good sculpture professor there that kind of got me hooked, and then it just sort of stuck with it for really like a long time.
Like you're still doing it now?
Like I'm still doing it today, yeah, which is strange.
So you, where did you go to school then from Pratt?
So I did Pratt for 2 years, and I transferred into the New York State College of Ceramics at Alfred University. So Alfred for another 2 years. And then I took one just grueling year off, and I worked at a risky manufacturing putting bus parts together. And then quickly applied to grad school to just like completely negate the real world. And I ended up down in Tulane in New Orleans, like 2006. It was like a couple months after Katrina, so it was like that weird time to be down there.
Oh, okay. Cool. And then you did like an art residency for Sculpture Space, I know.
Yeah, so it was pretty much the year or two after I graduated. I applied back up in Utica. So I didn't know Sculpture Space existed when I lived here.
And it's only been there for how many years?
It's been like 38 years or 39 years or something. So it's been consistently there, but they don't always have the greatest advertising in the house. And since they're an international residency program, they're known to sculptors all over the world, but they never really did a lot for advertising like
locally.
Yeah, because they don't have no real use. They had no real use, I guess, for just like people knowing they existed. So I remember coming across them on a website and being like, oh, I vaguely remember this thing, and I applied, and it ended up being fantastic. So I went to school. I have a master's in large-scale glass casting and steel fabrication, so like large glass sculptural work. But I had done these sort of found object pieces on my spare time, just sort of around New Orleans. And so that actually was the first place I was able to really focus on those for 2 months. And because it's pretty much taking a bunch of things, stacking them, and painting them.
And that was when you started doing that
Yeah,
style.
so like that's when I at least figured out how to do it safely. Because before, like I was going around in New Orleans and like there'd be a street corner of trash, and I'd pick all the trash up and I'd like kind of balance it on top of the stop sign, then just paint all of it like purple, and then wander off in another direction.
I bet they love that.
Yeah, well, so that eventually the police caught on. That's
So don't do that.
don't do that. Yeah,
Right.
that was a fun couple of days trying to explain to like my graduate coordinator, like in the glass department, why I was getting arrested for this other thing, and they smoothed it out. So that was nice of them.
So it's expression.
It was expression,
of
right?
Art. Yeah, that's right.
Well, it's actually funny enough though. So like New Orleans, right after Katrina, like it's a strange city. So they didn't exactly fix things right away because either they didn't have the time, the money, or the resources. Like they just couldn't get things. But so you'd have these homeowners with these houses that were just like kind of like cattywampus, and they'd paint them. So like they'd be missing half the boards on their front porch, but it would be like a new coat of paint. And it was really kind of striking to be down there and seeing this strange detritus, but also look so clean and so new. And that's actually
And
one
it
of the
was
things.
like bright colors and stuff too.
Yeah,
right?
like
Most
straight
of the
New
time,
Orleans,
New
like
Orleans
you know, like
colors.
kind of cheerful everything.
yeah.
And so like they don't have a roof, but man, the front of that house is the craziest royal blue you've ever seen.
Roofs are overrated.
Yeah, roofs are overrated. Do you really need it?
As long as you got the ports. It's fine.
Yeah, so that's actually where I sort of started picking up and thinking a little bit more about kind of like painting the objects and doing that type of work. And then coming down back to Utica for sculpture space for a couple months was sort of that time where I was able to sort of hone it in and figure out why I was doing the things that I was doing, and being in a place like specifically any of these Rust Belt cities where there's just objects laying around. Like you walk down any street and there's like something in the road, or there's like on garbage night it's a treasure trove of
People
really
putting stuff out to be taken and stuff.
Yeah, in a way that like doesn't exist in other parts of the country. So anywhere in the Midwest I went, like you couldn't throw stuff out like that. And I was living outside of Kansas City for a few years, and if you picked up the trash on the side of the road, it was technically property of the city at that point. So like cops didn't really like you taking their stuff. So you didn't get people like scrapping and picking things up the same way. And here it's just like,
oh yeah, there's you can drive around with a truck and pick up all kinds of stuff in the area.
which I do.
Yeah.
And then
That's
I
awesome.
put them in galleries and kind of chuckled to myself a little bit.
Nice.
There's all your garbage.
Yeah. Well, and so
Looking
like
awesome.
After sculpture space, one of the things I figured out was that with those large installation pieces, I would travel to a city. So like if I had a show in like Prescott, Arizona, I'd show up 2 weeks early and then just like collect things from the neighborhood and spend 2 weeks collecting just whatever Prescott had to offer and then build the sculpture out of those things.
That's
so
awesome.
they're really like super specific to the culture.
Ah.
So I think like Colorado, Southern Colorado, there's tumbleweeds, lots of tumbleweeds, because that's what happens in
There you go.
Colorado. Yeah.
or like Flint, Michigan, a lot of vodka bottles.
What would you say about Utica?
A lot of broken wooden things seems to be what I keep finding, like furniture. Like I don't get who throws out so much furniture.
Yeah.
Like it's like everyone's getting a new couch every month.
There you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff floating around.
Yeah.
So the art residency in Sculpture Space was awesome. What does like Sculpture Space really do? You said it's been there for 38 years, but like explain what it is for us, I guess.
So it's an odd organization because it's evolved in complexity but not in mission. So it's doing the same mission now that it did like when it first started. It's a international artist residency program. So they bring in 2 artists every month for a total of 4 artists. So you have 2 people come in every month. They stay for 2 months and then they leave. So you kind of have this institutional knowledge that sticks around throughout the season. So artists pop in from all over the world. They produce or they don't produce. They're generally either showing up with a project they want to make and they don't have the ability to produce it at their own studio, or they show up in Utica and they become inspired, which is surprisingly accurate. Like a lot of people actually come in from crazy places and they show up in Utica and they're like kind of blown away by just the way the city is. It has a very specific kind of vibe or aura. So we are able to bring in artists, give them a small stipend, a place to live, equipment, expertise and knowledge, and then sort of connect them into the community for them to be able to produce their work.
So you're actually working for Sculpture Space right now, right?
So yeah, now my current project. I'm working for Oneida, which is a survey of public art for the county of Oneida County, so almost 1,300 square miles of space. And this was a grant written through Sculpture Space. It's a Partners in Prosperity grant written through Sculpture Space. The county funded us for 1 year. So in fact, the end of next week, I have to have my first rough draft out. And then we'll be apparently printing by
So it's a catalog.
October.
So it's like a catalog of all the different sculptures that you can find in the area.
We're kind of looking at it like a field guide. So we were separating it by zone, so that you can pick this book up and just pick an area and go follow around like a map.
Walk a path and check out the art.
Exactly. So you can know, like, if you happen to be in the southern part of the county, like, here's some of the art that we've identified. And I mean, there's cool things from like Sasquatch on the side of the road chained to the front of a bar to bronze sculptures and work that even like the Ramus and Remus sculpture in front of the beaches, which you may or may not be familiar with, right? Yep. So it's the sculpture that everybody sees. They've gone to the beaches, they know it's there.
Yeah, right? The wolf with the kids underneath.
Yeah, yes. Ramus and Remus suckling at the teat of the wolf.
That's right.
Which was right. So it's a bizarre sculpture. And you kind of look at that and you go like, that's just there for like some weird shock value, and you go by. But it actually turns out that there were Italian resistance fighters in World War II that really wanted to become U.S. citizens, and one in particular who wasn't able to enter the country. Specifically, we had what do you call it? Not internment camps. Brain stopping. Oh, POW camps, right. So we had the Italian POW camps just north of us, north of Rome. So we didn't want Italians coming over because that's kind of like a conflict of interest. So this guy, what he decided to do was fabricate these bronze Roman sculptures, right, of the birth of Ramus, and give them to different Romes in the U.S. as an attempt to build good faith to like come over to the country.
Right.
The city of Rome rejected it outright, saying that it was like depiction of bestiality, and they wanted nothing to do with it. And so, like, a group of these guys got together, these like old Italian dudes. They started the Roman Wolf Club. They were then able to raise funds to get this thing flown from Italy over to the U.S. Wow. So that little weird circle in front of the beaches is actually a donated piece of property that belongs to the city of Rome. And it went there because it had the bushes, so that like they were able to convince the city of Rome that it could sit on Roman property as long as it couldn't be seen from the road.
Yeah.
So like there's these really weird stories that come up with some of this older sculpture. You're like, I just kind of drove by that a lot.
Yeah, right. When did that happen?
I'm sure a lot of people have seen it.
What year?
A long time ago. Visit artoneida.org for
more information. Right.
Well, yeah. So like, and that's my God, my brain with numbers is not so good. But so. Part of this is we're creating a book, that's a good segue into, we're also creating an online archive. So the book, we're going to have around 50, maybe 60 pieces of work actually documented and photographed and the whole shebang and written up and all that. But we have about 180 already identified on the website.
Oh, wow.
We're, there's two of us that are working on the project, myself and Arden, should say Arden Kirkland, right? Full name. There you go. Yep. But there's only so much time in the day. So we're kind of shortening it down. We're hoping to maybe be able to produce either a volume 2 or expand into other counties of the surrounding area.
So you guys are like just driving around trying to find all this stuff? Like you said you were following like a grid pattern or something.
I'm trying to, but once you get up towards like, Forestport, there's no grids to be had. It's just like one gravel road. So my main mode is like I kind of broke the county up in these tiny little parts, and I would show up there, drive, find a library, a VFW, and anyone walking down the street and be like, do you know if there's any art around here? Which most people just kept walking. Like, this guy on a motorcycle pulls up and like flips his visor up and they don't want to talk to me. But every once in a while someone's like, we'll give you a good tip, and then you show up somewhere and you take a photo, and then it's, you walk in a circle from wherever you took the photograph, and everyone you run into with a recorded thing be like, do you know anything about that?
Yeah.
No, and eventually you'll find the artist and you track them down.
Oh, nice.
So you're developing the history of these pieces that, someone may have forgot about, but like the residents maybe in the area know the history of it.
And then there's some that are kind of like mislabeled. So in Rome, right, you have the giant man on the horse, which everyone assumes is Paul Revere, but it's Gansevoort. So it's like,
Of course,
Right.
Gansevoort.
Yeah, you would totally
Everyone knows Gansevoort.
Exactly, right? So
That's like a wizard.
Sounds like it was.
yeah, so he held Fort Stanwix during a siege. Like he's a huge,
That
like
makes much more sense.
makes a ton of sense. And then like you walk down the street and there's like this bronze statue of the guy, and like he's all over the place. But because it's next to the Paul Revere copper, you just sort of assume it's this.
Paul Revere.
Right, and I
Right.
had no idea until we talked to the artist, and I was like, "Oh man, I feel kind of like
Oh yeah.
an idiot here," because
Wow.
you contact them like, "Hey, about this Paul Revere mural," and they're like very quick to correct you.
They're
Like,
like,
no,
sure
that
they
is Gansevoort. Like, oh, who's that? Oops.
the wizard that
The
saved.
wizard that saved
Fort
Fort
Stanwix.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's actually awesome to find that out.
So we're really hoping that, like, I think the book's gonna be maybe like 130 pages or so. No, but there'll be full color images. There'll be a little bit of a history about it. There'll be some detailed shots, and then like the coordinates and how to get there. And then you can then access the website, which is mobile friendly, and then read a little bit more about it, and maybe learn about the history that you're kind of already being surrounded by.
Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
So when's the book coming out?
That's a really good question.
Oh, yeah. We can skip it.
In a perfect world, beginning of December. So we're kind of working with North Country Books for distribution, and in theory, we'll have everything by the end of October, November 1st to Brodock to print. So we should be pretty comfortable at the beginning of December.
Nice.
Where it will be, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
We've got, I think, a deal with Barnes & Noble, but
Nice. They'll have to check out the website.
yeah,
Right.
To
yeah.
keep up to date.
artonaut.org
Yes.
will
Right.
bring you there.
All right. Awesome. So, as far as you, what are your future plans?
That's a really decent question. So, at the end of this year, right, so this book will be done and no more. So I think I'm going to continue sort of producing work and wandering around, and I've got a handful of commissions. I've got a show in Maryland next year.
So you're still getting art commissions and stuff to
Right,
do?
yeah. In fact, I've got a mural I'm working on next weekend. So there's, still kind of keeping my own personal practice. It took a little bit of a back seat this year while I was doing this. The Art Oneida thing was sort of supposed to be like a part-time job, but it became so much fun that I've just sort of devoted way more time than I should to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be sort of rebuilding my own personal studio space as opposed to kind of like squatting at Sculpture Space all the time.
So, how can people see your work and get a hold of you, and then also like Sculpture Space and Art Oneida? Give us all that information.
All
Yeah,
the
yeah.
information. So for me, it's M.A. Polizzi, so MAPOLIZZI.com, or M.A. Polizzi at Instagram.
Right.
I'm kind of there all the time. Too much, actually. It's an issue. Sculpture Space is sculpturespace.org, and then Art Oneida is artoneida.org. And all of those kind of link together. So if you make it
cool.
to any one, you can probably find the others.
Awesome. So, I guess thanks for being on the couch.
Yeah,
Man,
thanks for
thank
having
you.
me.
It's been awesome. It was-
Painless interviews. Perfect.
All right, great. That's what we're shooting.
Yeah, it was great learning all about like the history of sculptures and things like that, and all the awesome artwork you're doing. It's good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So if you guys want to watch the full interview, check us out and the whole interview on youtube.com/onthecouchwgc. And make sure to like our Facebook page, facebook.com/onthecouchwgc, to stay up to date with all the videos we're putting out every single Tuesday. So tune in for that.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for watching.
See you next time.
See ya.